Hola, buenos días. Soy Nico.
Shut it down.
Don't be so
Shut it
condescending all
down.
the time.
Honestly, you're not worth my time. Okay, so you and I.
And no, this is not this is not a sponsored video. I'm just drinking this so that I can have energy to do this. Today, we're here to start off another wonderful week's worth of content. Well, yes. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me at patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive videos, weekly live streams with a multifaceted panel that discusses different conversations weekly. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in. Now, let's get into last week's comment and we'll get on to the actual video. A wise woman once said, "This ain't Texas, ain't no hold'em." And it's funny because this is from one of my original Patreon members called Prince Onyx, and it was a key because we were talking about Diego Barros essentially getting arrested for performing a live Super Happy Adult Fun Time performance in a club in Texas where that is not allowed. And I want to re-emphasize, the South is repressive. The South is regressive. Nico, I'm born and raised from the South. So as someone who is currently living in the city, I think I talked about how I can't see myself going down to live in Texas. Not in the near future, probably not in the distant future, just because it's very regressive on how you can express yourself. Homophobia is real, racism is real. A lot of people like to think because they're in progressive cities, such as I was raised in Houston. It is a progressive city. I still got pushback from how I identified and how I presented in the world. But now that we got that out of the way, let's get on to the actual video. Today, we're going to be talking about not even one of my favorite performers, Xaddy Corvinus. Nico, if you did not know, Xaddy Corvinus recently came at me crazy because his boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, I don't know, they're still together, Pablo Strokes, had talked to me sideways because I brought up the fact that he secretly records people, allegedly, during his Super Happy Adult Fun Time when he does not alert them that there are cameras hidden all across his apartment. Some cameras are visible, some are not. So he came at me left ways and basically said that I was ugly and that I was botched and that I needed to work on such and such. Meanwhile, he had been camped out in my DMs, 3 different attempts trying to film and or get at me. So it was a situation that I just was not going to entertain because you're not going to call me ugly and in the same breath try to smash me multiple times. But in this conversation, I'm going to try to come off as unbiased as I possibly can. So, if you did not know, Xaddy Corvinus was essentially getting pushback from a select group of people basically saying, "Oh, nobody gonna want you, you're sexed out, you're freaked out, you're used, you're discarded, no one wants a sex worker." And he basically did a video that was then taken out of context where he basically said, "I may not have a 9 to 5, but it's crazy that you can talk about my job and that I can't talk about yours." As an example, you have to report into people. You have to ask for time off. You have to ask to use the restroom. I have the leisure of making my own schedule and being able to do whatever I want to do. And I will play you the video now.
If you a 9 to 5 working ass bitch that got some shit to say about what I do for a living, like, come on now. I don't think that's fair. How you get to talk about what I do for a living? I can't talk about what you do for a living. I'm fucked out. Cool. I'm fucked out and I can buy what I want. I can travel where I want. I can go where I want. I can eat what I want. But you got to clock out early today because you can't go over overtime. You have to fill out a permission slip just for you to have time off to be able to travel out the country or be able to travel anywhere. You got to ask for permission to go to the bathroom. And again, I can talk about these things because I was him.
As you saw, he basically came up and said, "I don't understand why it's fair to talk about my job, but I can't critique yours without getting pushback." And I agree. Like I said, I feel like the video was originally taken out of context and just posted to put him on blast, but I see where he's coming from in the context of a lot of people like to shame sex workers and what they do on camera, but they do it all behind closed doors. He later went on to emphasize that he may be getting freaked out on camera and making money, but it allows him the leisure to live his life the way he wishes, while people that have 9 to 5s usually release their sexual frustrations and or inhibitions at parties such as Deviant, where it has dark rooms where you can partake in sexual activities, or someone brought up Nubian super happy adult fun time parties, which are large scale parties essentially. Nico, I've actually never been to one, just because from the way one of my friends described it, it was disgusting to me, just because they were like, boom, 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 boom. So, flashback to Nubians. We were all in Atlanta for Atlanta Black Gay Pride last year, and my friends actually ended up going to it, and they were basically saying it was a 4-story party in complete darkness. The only lights were basically in the hallways so you can see where you were going, and people were hunching hundreds at a time. There were at least 400 people in that building hunching, and sometimes whenever they were hunching, it wouldn't come out clean. Nico, they said they knelt down to suck some peen because they wanted to participate but not fully get in there, and they smelled a waft of fresh shit. And it makes sense because 400 people, let's just say 50-50. 200 bottoming for 6 hours straight. You think it's gonna stay clean the whole night? Be real with you. I'm gonna be real with you. So that's never personally been my thing. I'm one of those people, if I can't see what's happening, I don't want to participate. But I will say that workers do get a lot of pushback in the sense that since it is on camera, people assume that they're the only ones doing it. For example, like I said, the Nubian party that I heard about in Atlanta, 400 people attended. It was not 400 workers. Nico, it was not 400 super happy adult fun time performers. So if there are major parties like this dedicated to super happy adult fun time with anonymity in multiple cities for large LGBT gatherings, it goes to show that the average everyday people are having promiscuous super happy adult fun time, and you can't necessarily pin it all on workers. Now, where I do disagree with him is the broad statements that he would make about people having 9 to 5s, because as a super happy adult fun type performer, hell, even as a YouTuber, you are essentially crowdfunded. You are basically an entrepreneur trying to get people to support whatever you're putting out, whether it be super happy adult fun time videos, or if it be social commentary like I do. I mean, I do a little bit of both, but it's essentially the same thing. You're crowdfunding your lifestyle. So coming online to critique all people who work 9 to 5s, a little bad of a business move. But at the same time, in these particular situations, you have to direct your ire at the people making these specific commentaries. But what I will re-emphasize is that super happy adult fun time performers do find love. Nico, this is somebody, because I work in social media marketing, I work in social commentary, I work in super happy adult fun time videos. Performers tend to be in the most relationships. They can be open, they can be with other performers. Heck, they can be with average day citizens. But from what I've noticed, most people that are online complaining about not finding romance, not finding partners, not finding love, is the average everyday person who is actively working hard at their career, who is going to school, who is doing everything quote unquote right. But the fun girl, the 365 party girl, you know, she's the one that's always cuffed and promoting a new man or whatever. The romance may be short, the relationship may be quick, but at the end of the day, I see it all the time that performers tend to be in relationships more so than the average everyday person. And it's always interesting because I've even gotten the critique when I started performing that, oh, nobody's going to want you, nobody's going to want to talk to you. And I'd actually say that after I started doing super happy adult fun time videos on OnlyFans, I had an influx of people trying to get at me. A lot of people view performers and or super happy, I just want to say, I can't say certain words on YouTube too many times without getting flagged. Point is, they view performers as someone who is living freely in their truth. No matter the situation that they're actually in that made them start performing, a lot of people view it as this is who you are, you're laying it all bare, you're laying your bare body. And that kind of courage is rare to find nowadays. So it does attract a lot of people, whether it be "Ooh, I like the way you put it down on video," or "I just like the confidence that you have to bear it all," because not all performers do collaborations. It draws people in. But what I also will say is that when it draws people in, it usually makes them territorial. It depends if you're dating another performer or if you're dating someone who's open. Not everybody can handle that dynamic, so they chase after you as a trophy because you're on this pedestal, and then they immediately try to take you off of it to basically say you are all mine. So it comes with waves. Point is, I will say what Xaddy Corvinus said, with a broad stroke, looks bad. It would probably make people not want to subscribe to you. I'm not even a fan of his just because he tried to come at my appearance, but I will be fair and say that it was taken out of context. Now, I do want to hear your opinions because, like I said, these more sex-positive spaces and parties are becoming more prevalent at LGBT spaces, at LGBT events. How do you guys feel about the broad stroke of the paintbrush when it comes to workers, basically saying that nobody will ever want them and they're tarnished and they're basically used up? I also want to reemphasize on the commentary about being tarnished that most performers, especially if they're doing studio scenes, have to get tested regularly and are usually on doxy prep and or prep. So STDs and STIs are currently on a spike in most states where they do not have good sexual education. I just wanted to reemphasize that because you are more likely to catch, let's say, chlamydia from somebody that is a random on the street than a performer that you link up with if they are active on their sexual health. I just feel like that's needed to be said strictly because it's on a rise and not everyone is in front of a camera, if that makes sense. Meanwhile, it's the average everyday person that is at these events, because as someone who does party promoting in New York City, I don't see performers usually going into the dark room. If anything, they're usually the dancers or the hosts of the party. It's the everyday person that's trying to get a little freaky on the side, a little, undercover, that actually goes and participates in these kind of spaces. Because I've actually been in situations where I will say it is usually the most beautiful, most innocent seeming, most reserved little cute bubble butt gay boy that you could find on the street that ends up in the dark room doing the most vile shit you have ever seen. Nico, quote me on that one. It's usually the most unassuming people that get up to the most shenanigans. Porn star are not. But yes, I definitely want to hear your opinions down below. How do you feel about performers coming forward and basically saying, I'm getting pushback for doing what you do behind closed doors just because I have the audacity to do it in front of the camera? How do you feel about these venues and parties becoming more prevalent as time goes along? Because honestly, before I moved to New York, I had never even heard of a dark room. I had no idea what those kind of parties were like. If anything, down in the South, bitches like to be low key. Basically, they'll have a kickback, which is like, oh, it's just 6 of my homeboys. We all taking shots. We all rolling up. And then suddenly halfway through the night, you just see somebody dip off. And then another person dip off. Maybe you hear a light moan. Maybe you hear an echo. And then suddenly it's a full-fledged session with everybody involved. So I definitely want to hear your opinions down below because once again, I feel like people reserve their disgust and animosity for super happy adult fun time solely for the people that do it in front of the camera, when it's usually the everyday person that's getting a little bit more active behind the scenes. Because from what I've seen, a lot of performers, once you get in the mind space of this is business, the recreational super happy adult fun time tends to stop. If I'm being quite honest, like even me, my libido, boom, above the roof. But ever since I started doing OnlyFans, I have recreational super happy adult fun time maybe once a month, once every other month, and it's usually with my friends with benefits, for the sole fact that I do try to carry myself with a bit more inaccessibility, if that makes sense. That's just a personal decision, but that tends to be everyone's mindset. I could be making money rather than having recreational and sometimes risky super happy adult fun time just for shits and giggles. But I do want to hear your opinions down below. Have you heard about these parties such as Deviants and or Nubian Dukes? Because Nubian Dukes is more the full-fledged super happy adult fun time party, while Deviant is usually like a lingerie dance party that you can get freaky at if you choose to. But I will be waiting for your opinions down below, and I will see you guys next time. Boop. And now for a brief yet sincere shout out to this week's Third Eye Tier subscribers, Juan V and Plain Speechless. Your continued support is greatly appreciated, and thank you once again to everyone who supports the channel. And this week's live stream discussion will be over super happy adult fun time parties. Have you been to one? What do they entail? And what are your risks about going to them? If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in.